everyone. Welcome. Long time no see. I know I take a lot of breaks from YouTube, from social media. Bear with me, I'm only human. I'm back and I'm here to finally tell my home birth story. I know a lot of people have been waiting on this story. It's almost a year later. My baby girl is going to be 1 year old next month. I'm so excited for her. I'm so excited for us. I'm so excited for this new phase, this new journey of her becoming a toddler. It's going to get crazy and wild. I already know. But I'm as prepared as I'm going to be. I'm as excited. I feel honored. I feel blessed. And, we're ready. And so I'm telling this story to you all to just enlighten those who may want to give birth at home or who just are curious about my experience giving birth at home. This is my first child that I gave birth to. Um, um, 22. She was born on Valentine's Day, and yeah. I want to start from the very beginning of this story of before conception. And I'll timestamp where I'll start the real birth story just for those who don't want to listen to this part. But I think this part plays a huge role in how we were able to get pregnant and sustain the pregnancy, and how it kind of just tied into everything from the pregnancy to the birth. Like everything happens for a reason. Everything is pieced together. And yeah, so from the very beginning, me and my partner knew we wanted to have a baby. Okay, we have been together for, well, today we've been together for 3 years. And at the time we were together for 2 years, and we knew that we wanted to have a baby. We made that conscious decision together. We talked about it. Let me tell you, it was not easy for us to get pregnant. It wasn't just, oh, we're just gonna do this and I'm gonna be pregnant, right? No, it wasn't that easy for us. It took some time for us to get pregnant. It took some work. And I think a lot of things came into play when it came to us getting pregnant. And I'll explain that. As for, I think that our relationship needed a lot more healing. And I think us apart needed a lot healing as individuals. We needed to deal with our traumas, to say the least. And for me personally, I can only really speak for myself, but I needed to do a lot of womb healing. I needed to do a lot of emotional healing. A lot of turmoil was still within my body, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, of things that I went through previously to that relationship. I really needed to deal with, and I needed to face if I really wanted a baby to grow within that environment. As women, we really focus a lot of energy on the fact that the womb is magical and the womb is powerful, and the womb is a place to create life and to give birth. And I think we also should recognize that the womb carries a lot of trauma, it carries a lot of pain, it carries everything that you've been through is in your womb. And it's within science to know that the trauma can be passed down through DNA. It's science that can happen. And so I think it's really important that if you want to get pregnant, if you're trying to get pregnant and you're having a hard time, it may just be emotional residue within your body of things that you need to let go of, or things that you need to face and really recognize and acknowledge, because those things play a role. Your baby lives in that environment for 9 months. They're growing. It's creating an entire human being. So of course you want to have a flourishing womb, a flourishing environment. So it took a lot of herbal healing, it took a lot of emotional healing, womb healing. um I was taking a lot of herbs, and the specific herbs that I think really helped me was the herb maca root. All right, now if you're trying to get pregnant and you're having a hard time, or if you're trying to increase your libido, something as simple as that, this herb is an aphrodisiac. This herb is a fertility herb. It will help you get pregnant. All right, it will also help you gain weight if you need help with that too. This herb is very healing, and you know me, I am a plant medicine woman. I believe that everything, every illness, every sickness on this earth, there's a plant there to help you, get through it or heal it or fix it. You know, there's a herb, there's a plant somewhere on this earth here. And another herb, well, I'm not sure if it's herb, but a hormone that played an important role is that scared me is progesterone cream. So basically, when I was trying to get pregnant, I did a lot of research. I went down the rabbit hole of what is the reason why I'm not getting pregnant. And I went back to my childhood around the age of 17. My parents thought it would be a good thing to get me on birth control. And I didn't really want to do it, but they felt like it was the best decision for me to do if I was going to be engaging in adult things, that I should be safe about it. And so I went on the pill. I didn't really take it that much because at that time I really wasn't doing anything. They just thought I was. But yeah, I was on the pill. I had really painful cycles in my younger days. Even up until adulthood, I had really painful menstrual cycles. And so I would be popping ibuprofens, Tylenol, whatever you want to call it, anything that suppressed the pain, I was popping that pill, okay? And we don't really think about the long-term effects of these things once that cycle is over. Will I still be able to have children? Will this cause long-term problems? And I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about, I don't want to be in pain right now. I'm trying to go to school or something, and I need to pop this pill so that I can make it through. That's how painful it was. I would be bedridden. And so I was doing all of those things, taking birth control, and to say the least, I think a lot of those things did a lot of physical damage, and also just a lot of emotional turmoil that I had within my life that I didn't acknowledge, I didn't face. And so it took a lot of herbal healing. I took a lot of different herbs. I took red raspberry leaf. I took nettle leaf. I took alfalfa. I took oat straw. I took dandelion root. I took a lot of different herbal teas and tinctures and maca root capsules, or you can use the powder, whichever you prefer. I took a lot of different herbs to really get my womb in the best shape possible, get my womb prepared for pregnancy, get my body ready to have a baby in there, and get that environment ready for her. And so I did all of that. I was in a lot of Facebook groups, so I was getting a lot of information, a lot of good resources from real women, real people who had overcome certain things like this, and learned about their bodies, basically, because they teach us these things, but they don't go into depth of how to, I guess, fix certain things. They just tell you, oh, go to the doctor, the doctor will help you. And I'm like, strictly, like, I'm not against doctors, but I like to call myself a herbalist, a medicine woman. And so I believe that my first turn should be to nature, to the plants, because that's what's always helped me in the past. And so I'm going to apply it now. I'm going to go to the plants. I'm going to go to the herbs. I'm going to connect with my ancestors, connect with the wise women to help me find this information, help me find these plants, let these plants find me, And so I really went down in the wormhole of the herbal remedies and healing, and through progesterone cream. That was more for balancing my hormones, because we did get pregnant before my baby girl that was born 2021. We had a baby, we had a positive pregnancy test in 2020, a little bit before her, and unfortunately we didn't sustain that pregnancy. And I really believe that it was because of my hormones not being balanced, and my progesterone wasn't up to par to sustain the pregnancy. So I'm not sure if it was hard for me to get pregnant, or it was more so hard for me to sustain the pregnancy that I would have. So, I really did my research, and I want to say I figured it out, because we successfully got pregnant and had a healthy baby girl, without the use of like IVF and going to the doctor and having the doctor tell me, oh, you're never going to have children for whatever reason they come up with. Because I've heard that a lot of women will go to the doctor and they will be like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, but you can't have children for this reason, when all you have to do is freaking take a herbal tea and be consistent and clean up your diet. That's another thing that I did. I cleaned up my diet. um when I was doing my research, I found out that, when you eat heavy processed foods and breads and starches and stuff that isn't easily digested within your digestive system and within your intestines, that stuff sits in your intestines. So, for example, bread. I loved bread, anything bread, muffins, cupcakes, cornbread, tortilla. I loved it all, right? I had to go gluten free for a little bit, and this was hard. Like, diet is something that's really hard for me. Eating things that I don't like to eat is really hard for me, but I was so committed to having this baby and having our family. I went gluten free for a little bit, and I really think that helped, because I saw a figure, and if I can find the picture of it, I'll show you guys. But I saw a picture of the intestines, and it was like a normal intestines versus an intestines that has a lot of bread and a lot of heavy foods in it. And if you look at the anatomy of a woman, their womb sits right under their intestines. And so all those heavy breads and heavy foods that weren't getting digested the way that they were supposed to be were weighing my intestines down, weighing the intestines down. And at that point, the intestines are sitting on top of your womb. So of course, that's not a good environment for some baby to grow in or to flourish in, because it's carrying all that weight of all that food that you're eating. So you want to make sure that you clean up your diet, you take your herbal teas, you do your fertility yoga. I was doing fertility yoga, I was doing womb healing, I was speaking life into my womb, I was saying affirmations into my womb. And sorry, my baby's out there, I'm listening, that mom ear. But speaking life into my womb, sitting in meditation, speaking to my womb as if she is a whole entity, a whole being, a whole person, really asking her, what do you need? What do I need to give you? What do I need to surrender to? What is this trying to teach me? I went all the way in, not just physically, not just emotionally, but spiritually. I had to sit in meditation with my womb and talk to my womb. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but the womb loves stillness. When you sit in stillness and you really be intentional with speaking to your womb, she will tell you what she needs. She will tell you if this man is meant to be the father of your child. Not always, but sometimes she'll tell you, she'll say, hey, you guys need to do more work. Hey, you need to do more work. You need to do more emotional work. So sit in stillness, listen to your womb. Your womb is an altar, is a space for creativity, a space of power, but it also it also is a space where pain and trauma and hurt and suffering can be stored. So you really want to be aware of what's in your womb and what energy are you walking around with. What energy are you allowing in your womb space? What kind of man are you allowing in your womb space? You know, be very intentional with these things. Pay close attention to these things. And I was suggested an amazing book, a book called Spirit Babies. And this book is How to Communicate with the Child You're Meant to Have. So this book was recommended to me within the Facebook group. And this book really, really helped me get an idea of some of the things that may hold you back from getting pregnant or sustaining a pregnancy. So if you've ever had like a miscarriage, or if you're trying to get pregnant, I highly suggest this book, because not only did it help me understand different reasonings as to why you're not able to conceive on a spiritual, emotional, physicality level, but it also taught me how to communicate with my baby. And what I mean by communicate, I mean like telepathically communicating with her before conception. And if you're not into that, or you think that's weird or not possible, then that's you. I respect it. That's your belief. But I am telling you right now, that book showed me how to talk to my baby. All right. And I'm going to get into more depth. So, before conception, I know this was before, because I don't know, it's a feeling. It's women's intuition, okay? I was sitting in meditation and I was doing the technique that she talks about in this book. And you pretty much it's hard to put into words, but I opened a communication to my baby girl. And I'm emphasizing baby girl is because I knew she was a girl before, you know, the doctor, the ultrasound tech told me she was a girl. You know, I knew she was a girl. I talked to her. I saw her. She came to me and her father in our dreams. And I saw what she looked like. I heard her speak to me. And that conversation that I had with her within that meditation telepathically, that conversation I had with her, basically I was just telling her that, you know, we're ready for you. We're ready to love you. We're ready to protect you. We're ready to learn from you. We're ready to teach you. We're ready to surrender. We know that you may have been here before, and that you may carry wisdom that we don't have, and we know that you're going to come through us and teach us so much about life and about ourselves, and we're ready. We surrender to that. We respect that. And no matter what, we're going to protect you. We're going to be here. We're going to love you. We're going to nurture you. We are committed to this contract of all of us being involved in your life. And I was very intentional. She was very intentional. She was very excited. I'm not going to get into too much detail because I don't want to sound crazy. But to say the least, that connection really solidified our bond. And I was able to talk to her and know that she listens and hears me throughout my entire pregnancy. We had a bond from the very beginning, spiritually, astrally, in the dream realm. We connected. She connected with her father, you know, so it was real strong. That bond was really out of this world. And that's why pregnancy and birth and motherhood is just so magical, because love is such a strong frequency. It's such a strong power. It's such a gift. And when you really tap into that energy and connect with your love, and I mean my love as in my child, she's my love, the apple of my eye. When you really tap into that energy, you guys will have a bond like no other. It's out of this world. A lot of people won't understand it, but moms, I know you feel me, because that's just how it is. I mean, even fathers, no offense to the fathers. Fathers, you feel me too, because you guys have that strong connection too. It just takes a little more intention with the fathers because, as you know, we grow the babies within our body, and we are connected to the babies nurse from us, they get a lot more from us. So when it comes to a father connecting with their child, it takes a lot more energy and a lot more intention behind it, but it can definitely be just as strong as the mother and child connection. And so yeah, that really solidified everything. And I was telling my partner, like, yo, we're having a girl. He really wanted a girl. And I'm like, it's a girl. Like, I just know, like, I don't want to sound crazy or like big headed, but she told me, I talked to her and we saw her, like, don't doubt that. That's very real. And so, yeah, I knew she was a girl. And when we went to we did get, I got 2 ultrasounds. I got one ultrasound in the very beginning, and then I got the anatomy ultrasound where they check the organs to make sure everything's in place and make sure everything is good. And so that's when they checked the gender as well. And we were just so excited when we found out, and that just really solidified it for me and really made me a believer that, like, this cosmic telepathic connection is very real. And don't doubt your abilities in this world. If you practice something, your gift will get stronger and stronger. So I highly suggest, if you're having trouble getting pregnant, if you're having trouble sustaining a pregnancy, you're having a lot of miscarriages, sit in meditation. Sit in stillness, no distractions, no music, no frequency. Listen to nothing, all right? And see if you can hear anything. See if you get a voice. See if you hear baby. I suggest the specific technique within this book, but you have to buy the book to get it. So, yeah, that was great. And so that really changed my journey going into the pregnancy, going into the birthing process, because I was ready to give it all up for her. I was ready to do and conquer everything. I was confident. And I was in a lot of Facebook groups, like I said, looking up natural pregnancy and home birth, because I already knew I wanted the home birth. I knew I didn't want to give birth in a hospital and be in an uncomfortable environment and have so many interventions done on me. I knew I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted to do it how my ancestors did it and be in a comfortable space, be surrounded by love, be protected, and let my body do what it's meant to do. Let my baby do what she's got to do. We working together. We're a team. We got this. If I can get pregnant, grow the baby, and sustain the pregnancy, I knew that I can give birth at home. I didn't have any fears of anything going wrong. I didn't even let that thought come into my mind. I surrounded myself with positive birth stories, positive energy, just a whole bunch of good energy and good things, because that's what I wanted my baby to have. And that's the energy that I wanted around. And let me tell you, that pregnancy was so easy. Like, I was very surprised at how easy it was. And I just think it was my mindset that I was just so excited to be pregnant and so excited to finally have my baby. And I was excited that I was having a girl, and I was just ready to conquer this initiation into motherhood. I felt like giving birth the natural way is such an initiation into motherhood, and it really affects the way that you mother, because at that point you're giving your all, you're giving everything, you are trusting and surrendering to everything for this child. And so my pregnancy was easy. I didn't have too much aches and pains. I mean, of course I had the normal aches and pains, but I dealt with the sickness the best way I could. And I was active doing yoga. I got certified in yoga while I was pregnant, and I have a whole bunch of videos actually on here, but they're all private because I was pregnant and I didn't feel confident about posting it. But it's like you can see my belly growing throughout that time while I was doing yoga, and it was just a really easy pregnancy. I didn't even get my midwives until 20 weeks into my pregnancy. So I was kind of halfway into my pregnancy when I decided to get a midwife, just because I was enjoying my time alone. Like, I didn't need to go to the doctor, or I didn't have any concern about anything. I felt fine. I felt normal. I was taking care of myself. I was taking what I needed to take. I was getting my herbal teas in. So everything was fine for the most part. And I got my midwives, and they just made sure that, her heartbeat was up to par, my blood pressure, and all the vital things that they check. And so, yeah, I didn't really get my midwives until about 20 weeks into my pregnancy, and we had two midwives that we would switch back and forth with. And I didn't get my doula until very, very last minute because I felt like my partner was going to be my doula, but we wanted a doula. And I'm glad that we got a doula, because I really wanted to support doulas. I really believe in their power and their gift to really be there during the birth. And so, yeah, we got a doula. And yeah, so I'm just gonna jump into the story because I've been rambling enough about my pregnancy and before conception and how that happened, and I don't think I missed anything. Yeah, so so just jumping right into the birth story. It was the day before Valentine's Day, the night. I was sleeping in my bed, dreaming my sweet little dreams, probably talking to my baby, and I felt a little trickle of magic. And I went to the bathroom and I saw my mucus plug, and I'm like, yes, it's time, but not really, because I knew that you can lose your mucus plug and not give birth. So I was having predominant labor a few days before, but when I lost my mucus plug, I'm like, oh yeah, it's really showtime now. But my baby's talking to me. Yeah, I lost my mucus plug, but I was like, okay, let me calm down. Let me go back to sleep, because I know that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to give birth right now. I could lose it and still not give birth until like a week later. Say, hey, 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 It was the night before Valentine's Day. Well, the day before. And I lost my mucus plug. I got so excited, so I decided to go back to sleep. I'm like, okay, I know this doesn't mean labor is here yet, but I think it does. But I'm going to go back to sleep so that I have energy. So I went to sleep, and guess what, y'all? I slept that entire day. The next day, I would sleep all day because I think my body knew that labor was coming. So it just put me to sleep, and I surrendered. I just went to sleep because I'm like, okay, if I'm sleeping today, that means I'm going to have a lot of energy for tomorrow or for tonight. And that was perfectly aligned, because that same night is when I went into real labor. And luckily my partner came home right in time while I was just going through my contractions and doing what helped me get through it. And yeah, so I was talking to her though, like I didn't even mention this, that night that I lost my mucus plug, I talked to my baby like in meditation, and I'm like, if you want, if you want, you can come on Valentine's Day. I think that would be so cute. But that's on you. You're choosing your birthday. That's I'm not trying to control that. Like, I wanted to make it very clear that it was in her hands what day she wanted to come, what day she wanted to be birthed on. And I was just expressing that I thought it would be so cute if she came on Valentine's Day, because that would be one of the best gifts, and I didn't really have good history to be honest. On Valentine's Day, I never really had a good Valentine's Day. And so I was just like, I guess that was trauma talking, saying, if I give birth to my baby on Valentine's Day, then it'll fix every Valentine's Day that I ever had in my life. And to say the least, I think it did, because ultimately she was born on Valentine's Day. So I would sleep all day, puking, purging. So, before labor really hits, you'll puke, you'll use the bathroom, and that's just your body letting you know that labor's coming. It's also clearing out your bowels so that you have a lot more room for when the baby comes down the canal. So I knew that birth was on the horizon, and prior to that, I was doing a lot of hip circles and rocking on the floor, just really getting her down low, getting her ready. And I knew that birth was coming. And so yeah, that night my partner had came home from work, and I was on the floor just rocking back and forth. That's what really helped me get through my contractions. I was like a little dog on the floor just rocking back and forth. Like, I was fine, don't get me wrong, but it just started kicking in, and I was like, oh yeah, I think tonight's the night, babe. I think tonight's the night, because I'm on the floor now, and I'm like rocking back and forth on my yoga ball, doing hip circles, and I'm like, okay, I think it's time to call the doula now. Like, I think it's time, right? So we call the doula, and this is like 10 p.m. the day before Valentine's Day. 10 p.m. It wasn't really painful. It was just contractions every few minutes, and it would last like 30 seconds or to a minute, and I would just rock. That just kept me going. And I didn't want any music. I had a whole playlist ready. Didn't even want music, didn't want any noise, any TV, none of that. I was in silence, and we would have small conversations, casual conversations in between contractions, just to not have it be awkwardly silenced. And it was my doula's son's birthday that day, so she came bearing cupcakes and goodies. And it was a snowy night. And yeah, I was just rocking back and forth, doing my hip circles on the yoga ball, talking to my partner, my midwife. I mean, not my midwife, my doula. And I was in the bed, and my water popped while doing the little rocks. And luckily we had the puppy pads, the bed padding on the bed, so we knew that was coming. And that just got me even more excited, because I knew at that point that my doula was gonna have to call the midwife. And I was even more excited because I knew that I was gonna get the midwife that I wanted. So throughout my pregnancy, we had 2 midwives, and we would switch. Every time we would go, I would have one midwife, then I would see the next one, the next appointment, and we would just kind of flip. But the way they had it set up was, one half of the month one midwife would be on call, and then the other half of the month another was on call. And the one that I wanted at my birth, the one that I felt more connected to, and I told her this, by the way, it was really awkward when I told her, because she's like, oh my gosh, we never had anyone say this before. We never had this come up before. And I'm like, really? Like, birth is pretty sacred. And I thought if you connected with one person more than the other, no offense to that person or to that midwife, nothing was wrong. It's just that we connected with our midwife way more. I don't know, I just liked her more, and I was very honest about that. And I'm like, I want you there. And she's like, okay, I'll talk to her. I don't think she really would talk to her because that's probably really awkward, and I don't know if it hurt her feelings or not. I hope not. But yeah, so I was so excited because I knew I was going to get the midwife that I wanted. She was on call, and it was crazy because this was like her last 2 days being on call, you know, like she was going to be off call, I think after Valentine's Day. So I was so excited when I knew that my baby was probably going to be born on Valentine's Day, and I was going to get the midwife that I wanted there. Ultimately, I prayed for it. I wanted to have a sacred circle. And then she brung her student midwife, who I love and adore so much. She's such a sweet soul, and she's like around my age, so it made me a lot more comfortable to have more people there that, you know, are around my age. And yeah, so it was just a very sacred birth circle, to say the least. And I was just so happy, so relieved that I was in labor and it was really happening. Like, I was kind of in denial for a while because I'm like, okay, my water broke. I'm having contractions, but this seems very easy. Like, it wasn't painful to me. It wasn't as painful as I expected it to be. And I'm like, am I really in labor? Because this seems too easy. But I want to talk about another thing, is that when I tell you that I had painful cycles, I mean, and this is what I thought about during pregnancy. I always wonder, okay, if I had really painful cycles, what would the birth be like for me? Would that be as painful, more painful, less painful? And let me tell you, birth was less painful than my menstrual cycle. Yeah, my menstrual cramps were worse than giving birth. Seriously. And I always wonder when I was pregnant, I'm like, yo, did these cycle cramps prepare me for birth? Could it be like that? Could they prepare me for the pain of birth? And I really, really think they did. They really, really was way worse than birth. Like, I will give birth way more than I would have my cycle cramps, okay? I know it sounds crazy, but if you have painful cycles out there, I just hope that gives you a little motivation that, like, birth is nothing compared to that. Like, I don't know what that is. It's probably some eternal damaging, and that's another reason why I probably couldn't get pregnant, because of all those pain relievers that I would take probably did some eternal damage. I'm not sure, but yeah, birth was a lot less painful than my cycles. And so I was in denial of the fact that I was actually in labor for a while because it just seemed too easy. It didn't seem painful. And let me tell you, throughout the entire experience, it really wasn't painful. It was just a lot of pressure. It feels like a lot of women say that you're taking a number two, just a very huge number two. It just feels like you're using the bathroom, just like a bowling ball. Well, not a bowling ball, a baby size number two. And so yeah, I felt that, and I was like, yo, this is really easy. And you know, I even asked my partner after everything was said and done, after the birth process had happened, I asked my partner, and I'm like, did it look like I was in that much pain? Like, I know I was vocal, and I would, you know, make noises. Of course, I wasn't like just sitting there silent. I was definitely vocal, definitely moaning and groaning, but it was not like as bad as I expected it. I expected it to be a lot more painful, and it wasn't. Now, I don't know if it's because of just my pain tolerance or, you know, things like that, but I'm grateful. I'm not complaining, and hey, I just feel lucky, you know, in that sense. But yeah, so I was in denial of the fact that I was in birth, and My water broke, so they called the midwife. It was a snowy night. It was snow, like it was like a snowstorm. So I kind of felt bad, man. Like they had to come out in the middle of the night, probably after a long day of who knows what they were doing, and come and find parking because all the parking spaces were taken and they had to walk from their car in the snow. And I was just like, wow, this is kind of, I felt bad, but it was also very cool because I don't know. I also been meaning to look up what that means to have a baby born on a snowy day, because I'm all into that elemental stuff and what that symbolizes. So, but we called the midwife, and I'm still getting through, all fours on the bed, on the floor. My partner is rubbing me and loving me. My doula is giving me words of motivation. We waiting until the midwives come. She brings her student midwife, who I love so much, who helped so much, and who's such a sweet soul. These women are just so sweet, and that's why I really wanted them there, because they just radiate so much gentle, loving energy, and I love it so much. And so yeah, they made it. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's so snowy. Like they had to park far away. It was the middle of the night. Everyone's kind of tired. I kind of felt bad, but that's how birth is. And so they set up the pool. I had a birth pool here in my bedroom. They set the pool up, got the water right. I got in the pool. It felt amazing. Oh, it was so relaxing and just so nice. And I will insert a few clips from that. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the birth on video because we'll get into that later. But yeah, the pool felt so good, so amazing, so relaxing. My partner got in the pool with me. It was just so nice. And so when I got in the pool, I didn't get any checks, by the way, not at this point at least. Any cervical checks or anything. So I didn't know how dilated I was or anything like that. And so I got in the pool just because, my midwives recommended that I got in. And of course, I want to get in. So I got in, and they're like, whenever you feel ready, you can start pushing pretty much. And I'm like, kind of hesitant and confused because I didn't really want to push, because I heard of this thing called fetal injection reflex, where you don't necessarily have to push. Your baby just comes out because that's the way birth is, and the baby's going to come out either way, whether you push or not. And I kind of wanted to wait for that to happen. But this was my first birth. I didn't really know what feeling was what. I felt a lot of pressure in my, in my bum, in my, yeah. And so I'm like, all right, I'm just going to push. So I'm just going to say this now. I think I pushed way too early. I started pushing way earlier than I should have. And I don't think that I was 100% ready. But I did it because I don't know, like a part of me kind of felt bad that it was the middle of the night, and everyone, like, it seemed like everyone did something that day and they were just exhausted, and I just felt bad. So I'm like, let me just push, like let me just get this out the way. Um and surprisingly, it didn't hurt. Like, I know people gonna be like, well, what you mean? Like, okay, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like a pleasant experience, but it didn't really hurt. Like when I was pushing, it didn't really hurt. It just felt like most women say, like you're using the bathroom, like you're doing a number two. It just feels like a very huge number two. And yeah, I was pushing. It was not really doing much. My midwife suggests that she check me cervically, and so I consented to it. And at this point, my partner's in the pool with me, behind me, holding me, loving me, making sure I'm okay, making sure I have water and I have food, and my doula is giving me words of inspiration. And my midwife comes over and they check me, and she's like, oh yeah, I can feel the head right there. you know, like her head's right there. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay, well, that's great. I love that. I love to hear that. Oh, let's keep it going. But she's like, yeah, your lip is in the way. So I had a cervical lip where it's like my cervix was dilated except for like one part of it. So it was pretty much, she's like, I'm gonna push it back for you. And that was one of my fears. And you know what's crazy about this birth? Every fear, well, not every fear, but a lot of the fears that I came in there with happened. And I think it happened because I needed to overcome it and face it. And yeah, that was one of my fears because I've heard of cervical lips before and it just sounds so painful. I was already against getting cervical checks because I just don't believe it symbolizes anything. You can get a cervical check and be dilated 3 centimeters, and then within the next 5 minutes you're 10 centimeters. So you know, I always felt like those checks didn't really determine anything. And so, you know, being in birth, of course, is a lot different because I'm in birth and I want to make sure everything's fine and am I making any progress, you know, stuff like that. And so yeah, she checks and she's like, I'm just gonna pull it back. So I'm pushing while she has her finger pushing my cervix back. And now that was a little uncomfortable. It wasn't even painful. It was just very uncomfortable and cringy, and I just didn't want to think about it. But it happened, you know? And so she's helping me. I'm pushing. Nothing's really getting done here. At one point, my contraction stalled, and so basically, my body pretty much gave me a break. It gave me a rest period where my contractions just stopped and they spread out longer times. And so I was just kind of sitting there waiting, and we're waiting. And they're like, okay, we have to get up and get this going again. We don't want to have you stall out and not have you stall out and stuff. And so I'm like, okay. So we had to get out the pool. I was kind of sad because the water was getting cold at that point. Let me go check my baby, y'all. Well, this is when the other fear came into play, okay? So at the point where they told me that I needed to get out the birth pool, I was kind of afraid because for some reason I had this fear of giving birth on land. I felt like I was incapable of it. I felt like birthing in the water was easier and gentler, and you know, I really wanted to give my baby that experience of gently coming into the world as if you're still in the sack, still in my womb, and it's warm, and we pull you out the water, and you're just on my chest, and it's beautiful, and everyone's just so happy, right? Yay! But no, I had to get out the pool. My contractions were stalling, and I needed to get moving. So we got out the pool. I go into the living room. I'm moving around. I'm doing the rocking back and forth on the floor again. Actually, I was still doing that in the pool, but I'm on the floor now, and I'm on the yoga ball doing the hip circles, bouncing, all that good stuff. And, you know, I get back down on all fours, and actually, I lay down on the floor. So I'm in the living room, laying down on the floor, kind of in a sideways pushing position, and I'm just pushing right then and there on the living room floor. I don't know how that happened. Actually, no, we moved from the birth pool onto the bed, and I was pushing there on my back for a little bit, and every time, so I would be in a squat, and then when I get a contraction, I would lean back and push. And my partner was kind of holding me up, so I wasn't completely on my back, but you know what I mean. Like, I was like that basically. And so we were doing that for a while, and it wasn't working. And we move into the living room so that I can get up and actually walk. And we walk into the living room, and I'm moving around and grooving around, and I'm laying down on my side. I'm pushing. The student midwife, she gets a towel for me to hold on to as I'm pushing. And I forgot what this technique was called, but basically it's like me grabbing on. I think it's like tug of war, something like that, where you're pulling on the towel and she's pulling on the towel, and it's making me like curl up and hunch on my baby a little bit and kind of put a little pressure on my stomach to push her down and out. But that didn't work. And so at this point, I'm getting concerned. And let me tell you why. At this point, when I was in the living room pushing, I'm seeing my doula lay down on the couch. I'm seeing my partner lay down in his hammock. And I'm looking at them like, yo, what's up with y'all? Like, y'all just gonna leave me here? Like, what? I was offended, okay? But they were tired. I get it. Birth is a long process. And when I was on the floor pushing, at one moment, I looked outside and the sun was up. And I was like, the sun is up. It's morning. It's morning. I've been pushing all night. So let me tell y'all, I was pushing for 5 hours. And yes, it was exhausting. Yes, it was hard. But the beautiful thing about birth is that you get breaks, okay? It's not continuous pushing for 5 hours. It's pushing for 30 seconds and then you get a break, a minute break, or longer if your body is willing to give you that, which my body was giving me longer breaks. It was stalling because I needed to rejuvenate, needed to get that energy back up. My body knew what to do, and I did not doubt my body even when I came to the realization that it was rising and it was morning and the sun was up. Yes, it was a little discouraging and I felt a little concerned, but I still believed in my baby. I still believed that I could do this. I still believed that everything was happening for a good reason, and that my ancestors were my ancestors were with me. I heard them at that moment specifically. When the sun came up and I felt that discouragement, I felt a strong energy of, you got this. You're good. It's fine. Don't worry about that. This is how birth is. And even the midwives had to kind of reassure me that, like, look, there's nothing wrong here, this is what birth is like. Birth is a long process, all right? It's a long process, and then I'm doing it naturally with no doctors or no nurses rushing me, trying to get me in and out. I really felt like if I was in the hospital and I was pushing for 5 hours, they would have been so quick to give me a C-section just out of convenience. It's like when you're in the hospital and you don't have that time to really take your time, push your baby out. Everything is on schedule. They're trying to get you in and out so that the next pregnant woman can come in. So I really am grateful that I was at home and that my midwives and doula and my partner supported me and uplifted me and kept me in it, because it was crazy to realize that it was morning, like birth is very time warpy. It's like time can go by so slow, but also time can move by so quick. So it's like I was shook when I saw that the sun was out. And so that also gave me more motivation to, like, yo, let's get this baby out. Like, come on. I started talking to her. We all actually started talking to her like, yo, come on, baby girl. Come on. We're ready for you. Come on. We got it. We here. And so yeah, I was pushing for 5 hours. And of course, when you're pushing for 5 hours and you have a cervical lip, I started to get swollen. And I got swollen down there, and my midwives were a little concerned because they didn't know what that was, what exactly was swelling up. I think My flower was just tired from pushing for 5 hours. And then to emphasize that I really think that I pushed a little bit earlier than I should have, it's like, okay, that didn't help either. So my body was tired, to say the least. And so we took a break. I came back in here on the bed. We relaxed. We had some casual conversations. And that's what I'm saying. Like, when I tell y'all, birth is just such a beautiful experience, and it's so funny and so crazy at the same time. It's like, even in the midst of all that, we still had normal conversations in between contractions. And that's in that moment why, how I knew that she was our midwife for us, because she's like looking around my room, seeing my dream catcher, seeing my Native American stuff, and she's like, "Yo, are you guys Native?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we have some Cherokee in our blood." And she's like, "Me too." And I never would have guessed that by looking at her appearance, I guess. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then the student midwife, um, she gave birth. I can't remember if it was, I think it was like 2 days before my baby was born. So it was like February 12th or the 11th, something like that. She gave birth around the same time as me, pretty much. And so I'm like, okay, I see the connection there. She's like around my age too. So I'm like, okay, I see the connections. I see why we are here today and why you guys were meant to be here. And I love it. I'm here for it. And so, yeah, that's how I knew that she was my midwife. So yeah, back to the story. We're on the bed. I'm getting a break. She's calling a doctor. So my midwife has a doctor that she called for advice. She's like, I'm gonna take some pictures of the swelling because I'm not sure what's going on here, and I want to get another piece of another ear to see what's up. And so I'm like, do your thing, girl. Go call whoever you gotta call. Like, cool. I ain't going to no hospital, but no one suggested that. But I knew I wasn't gonna go. But I wasn't even worried. I'm just like, yo, if they say I gotta go to the hospital, I'm gonna be mad. I'm be so mad. But I'm not even gonna go there. I didn't even think about that. And I'm like, everything's all right. Everything's gonna work out. So she called the doctor. He's like, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. If she's fine, everything's fine. It's fine. So everything's fine. My doula, shout out to my doula. Shout out to all the doulas. Doulas, thank you for what you do. Had one of the best ideas that I think greatly affected my birth and really helped my baby come. I had an automatic breast pump that I got a few days before the birth. Thank goodness. I don't know why I got this pump. I was partially afraid that breastfeeding would be challenging, so I would get a pump so that I can pump it out, yada yada. I got a breast pump. She suggests that we use the breast pump while I'm giving birth, obviously. So stimulating the breast is one of the ways that you can bring back stalled labor. So at that point, my labor had definitely stalled. I was just sitting there. The contractions were very spaced out. She's like, let's get the breast pump, put the breast pump on, see if it speeds up your contractions. We got the breast pump on. When I tell y'all those contractions came back ready, strong, they came back ready and strong. We're on the bed right here, this bed right here. Okay, the same bed she was conceived on, same bed she was birthed on. On this bed, I'm on all fours. All right, shout out to learning labor positions and gravity. I'm on all fours at this point, and I hated being on all fours because it made the contractions so intense. It's like you can feel that baby's head coming out. Like, ooh, it made it so intense. So intense. I hated being on all fours, but I knew that was the position that I needed to be in if I really, really wanted my baby to get out. So I'm on all fours and I'm pushing. Well, actually, before I got on all fours, I was on my back, but on my partner. So I'm like kind of in a squat, but my partner is like holding me so that they can see the baby at the same time. So I'm in a squat and I'm pushing, and that's when she starts crowning. She starts crowning, and I feel her head. They're like, touch her head's right there. I feel her head, and I'm like, oh my God. They're like, oh my God, she has so much hair. And I'm like, oh my God, I can feel it. And you know, when you touch that baby's head, that's enough motivation to get that baby out at that point. So after touching her little squishy head, I'm like, all right, I got this. This is nothing, you know. I am very vocal while giving birth. I was definitely screaming, but let me tell y'all, like, although I was screaming, it was giving me more energy to like, you know, like when you scream, it's like, so I'm screaming and I'm pushing, and they're like, all right, let's get on all fours, and I'm like, I got on all fours. My partner's like facing me, and I'm holding on to him as I'm pushing, and I push my baby out. She comes out in that position, and I am just like, oh my God. My doula got pictures of that moment, and my partner's still behind me, and I have her in my arms, and we're just looking at her big brown eyes, and she's just looking at us, and she lets out a little baby whelp, and I don't even think she cried. She didn't cry right away. She was actually like pretty calm, and she let out a little baby whelp, and I think after that then she started crying a little bit, and we just had our skin to skin time, and my partner had skin to skin time with her, and everybody's just so happy, so relieved, and it was snowing, and it was Valentine's Day, and everyone's just so happy, and I was just so happy and so relieved and so thankful for that freaking idea from my doula. I mean, I really think that helped me so much. So if you're giving birth and your labor stalls, girl, get a breast pump, because that'll speed your labor up, okay? Or do anything that releases that oxytocin. Kiss your partner, you know, love on them. I didn't really feel that comfortable doing that in front of them, but you know, some people don't care. You know, do what helps you. And you know, I'm just looking at her, and I'm just so in love, and you know, we're just so happy, we're so relieved, and we just have our time with her. And I wanted to leave her cord on for a few minutes, so we did, and then we burned it. We actually burned her cord with a candle, and you know, spoke affirmations over her life. I feel like that was very spiritual for me, because before the pregnancy I did a lot of candle work, and spoke to her through that. And so the flame and the fire magic and speaking affirmations over her life really solidified it for us. And that was the first time that the midwives ever saw that before. So you know, that was the first time for them, and it was just so beautiful. And you know, I left to go shower while her and her daddy had time to bond, and everybody just cleaned up, and I came back and I had to get sutras, aka stitches, because I did have a little tear. Nothing too big, but I did have a little tear, which getting stitches isn't anything compared to pushing a baby out. So you know, I wasn't worried about that. I was just happy that my midwives were able to do that for me, and I was just so happy, so in love. And I started nursing her, and she latched on perfectly. She knew what to do. She came here and she knew, and she was born on the morning of Valentine's Day. Yes, it was still morning when I gave birth to her, so it wasn't too far into the day, thank goodness. But yes, that pushing for 5 hours was kind of crazy. I didn't expect that to happen, but hey, birth happens the way it's meant to. I gave birth on land, so I conquered that fear. And I'm just so happy that everything turned out the way it should have. And everything aligned the way it should have. And we're just so grateful, and I'm just grateful to tell this story to you guys, and hopefully give you guys motivation that you can birth your baby at home. You know, I feel like, not to beat hospitals up, thank you for what you do, thank you for the service that you give women, but I think that they make birth way more complicated than it has to be. And if you just be at home in your own space and you're comfortable, you're surrounded by love, you're surrounded by support, you're surrounded by people that you know, that you've built a connection with, it'll really make a difference in your birthing process. It'll really make the energy high enough for you to feel confident. And if you talk to your baby during pregnancy, if you talk to your baby during conception, you and your baby will have that connection. Love is the strongest frequency, all right? Love your baby. Talk to your baby. They hear you. They feel you, all right? They know you. They know your face. They know your smell. They know your taste. They know you. Connect with your baby. Understand that if your body can grow a baby by itself, if your body can get pregnant and nourish that baby, nourish that life, why wouldn't you be able to birth that baby? Don't doubt your body, all right? Believe in your body, believe in your baby, to know that, yes, this is our first time doing it, but we can do it. This is nature. This is written in the laws of nature, okay? And so, thank you. I'm gonna get my baby girl, and I think I'm gonna bring her in here because she wants to be with me. I can hear her talking out there. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys for listening in on my video and my birth story, and I hope that you learned and gained some wisdom or some confidence. If you're pregnant, wanting to give birth at home, just know that you can do it. You can do it. Your baby can do it. You guys are a team. You're connected. Talk to your baby. Speak to your baby. And they will work with you. All right? Trust in your body. If you can be pregnant and grow the baby by yourself, you can give birth by yourself. Nothing changes. Nothing is any different, all right? And this baby girl is so smart. We've been teaching her baby sign language so she knows how to sign for milk and to eat. And we're gonna learn bath soon. And she's just so happy and calm and chill and cool and wild and fun and free, and I just love it, and I'm grateful. And I have so much content coming as far as baby stuff and raising children and homeschooling and making baby food, you know, things like that. I would really, really want to make some videos for you guys so that you guys can learn with me, with us, and we can just grow together. We can grow together and do this parenting thing together, and everybody wins, you know, and share my wisdom, and hopefully you can share the wisdom back with someone else who may need it. So stay tuned. 2022, she's almost 1 year old. She'll be 1 next month on Valentine's Day. So I love you. I'm proud of all the growth and all the blessings you brought to our family and all the lessons you already taught us this year. And I'm just ready for the next phase. Thank you guys for tuning into my birth story. I hope you enjoyed it. And I love you. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.